Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube segment. Well, I'm going to be talking about something maybe a little bit different than what I've been talking about previously. Well, this is really the potpourri channel, I call it, of my three YouTube channels. It's basically a smorgasbord. It's a variety of different videos, assortment of different ones. So anyway, this one is going to be about suicide and God. Now, this may be somewhat controversial. Some people may agree, some may not. Well, I wanted to talk about what I'm going to hone in on, so to speak, and focus on as far as suicide and God. And those of you that are believers in the supreme being, or you do believe in God, or at least a God. The thing about it is, the question is, I can remember somebody, a former friend of mine, had talked to me many years ago, and he said something like, "Well, Eddie, do you think God will put you in hell if you kill yourself?" And it's a very good question, and I think it's something that it doesn't really have a definitive yes or no answer. I mean, first of all, you got to, some of you may believe in hell, some may not. There actually is a hell. I think the thing about this is it's somewhat it's discretional. That the answer depends on circumstances, situation, age of person, and what was happening in this person's life that compelled them to commit suicide. I think I see God as a very merciful God. Now, assuming there is some kind of hell or at least some banishment from God, this doesn't. What it is if somebody they killed themselves and it was something where they were dealing with so much adversity and going through so much tribulation, they may have felt that there just wasn't any recourse at the time. When people like that, you look at a case like that Amanda Todd tragic case. Then she had been persistently bullied online. I think she was being blood. People were trying to blackmail her, I believe, and online, and they wound up getting some salacious photo of her, and she wound up. She wound up killing herself, and they were telling her with that, going back to the salacious photo or photos of her, people were saying, well, we're going to do this online, we're going to spread this if you don't comply with our wishes, if you don't do such and such. And the thing about it is, in a case like that, and you have a situation like the Amanda Todd situation, there was the other one was Rebecca Sedgwick, I think is the other name, or something similar, and some of you may have heard she had committed suicide a number of years ago. She jumped off some factory building or something due to, again, some persistent cyberbullying. The Amanda Todd case was more in connection with these salacious photos, these graphic photos of her that were being distributed online. Amanda Todd was also beat up physically, at least at one point in time, I believe, by people that may have been connected with the cyberbullying. And the thing about it is, in cases like that, you have to understand people, a lot of times they'll kill themselves because it wasn't because they necessarily wanted to. They thought there was no other course of action. And somebody has stated to me that the brain is not fully developed till like 25 years old. I don't know how true it is. I never looked online to corroborate or confirm it, whatever. But assuming that's true, I could understand these cases with these young people that succumb to this bullying, and they wind up killing themselves. My feeling on that, going back to the judgment call by God, it's hard to get into his mind and understand what decision he would make, his decision-making process. But my feeling on it is I don't think he puts them in hell, those people, because of certain circumstances that were involved, because the people were going through so much turmoil, so much anguish, it was unbearable to them. They couldn't take it anymore. Now, I don't condone suicide or people killing themselves by any means, but I do understand. I think that God has some empathy for those people. God I believe, is a very compassionate God, and going back to the fact, very merciful. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, The thing about it is now, if somebody, if you have a person that is a full adult, they're strong-willed, and if they actually were more than capable of handling their crisis, their adversity they were going through, what have you, that's a different story. Then God may make the judgment call going in the opposite direction. And assuming there is a hell, they banishes them to, to exile from God and going to hell. And that I could understand. There was a case one time, I remember it was on like one of those 48 Hours Mystery or Dateline, one of those shows, and apparently, some guy had tried to jump off a cliff. I mean, you've heard, I'm sure it's like an expression, people going to jump off the cliff. I mean, literally, it was a cliff. May have been like about 85 feet high, maybe 100 feet high. I forget exactly the height. But it was an attempted suicide in order for him, so he could avoid going to jail. Because apparently he had some warrant on him or something. He knew he was going to jail. He tried to kill himself, and it was a failed suicide attempt. He wound up shattering his legs, and he was, basically physically incapacitated from the waist down. The legs were shattered. Not only is he incarcerated, but he's basically messed up for life because the legs were completely shattered and immobilized, basically. And something like that, I think God would likely go in the other direction. You're talking about a corrupt person, a criminal that's trying to avoid going to jail. I think it's a little bit different when someone is somebody, especially at a very young age, very vulnerable, kills themselves because they were at a point where they didn't know what else to do. The problem may have seemed insurmountable to these people. It's sad when you hear about those stories because, sometimes these people are begging, practically groveling for help, and people are sadly unresponsive to them. So what happens? They don't have anybody, they don't have enough people to stand up for them. All their so-called friends might dissipate into thin air. I mean, I kind of understand the dissipation of friends into thin air. Some of you may have seen me on my YouTube astrology channel. I have transit Neptune in the 11th house of friends right now. And I have friends, acquaintances that are just dissolving, dissipating, whether it's because they they went on to bigger and better things, whatever they decided to do. They have, everybody's got various reasons for that, but or betrayal, or people just turning on me inexplicably and what have you, but whatever's clever. But anyway, the thing about it is that you have these people that I'm not justifying or condoning people killing themselves, but what I'm saying is there's certain case situations based on circumstances. I understand why it happens. And again, going back to the cases of being, and the things that feel insurmountable to people, their life becomes so hard to bear, especially when somebody's at a really exceptionally young age and having to endure some things like that kind of abuse, whether it's opprobrious language or whether it's physical harm, cyberbullying, constant derogatory remarks being thrown at him or her. And to me, I do understand it. So basically, I really don't have much more to say about this matter. I just felt like compelled to just do this video, and I wanted to basically talk about, and also in people out there, if anybody is someone contemplating suicide, try to get them some help. Somebody being bullied, whether it's regular bullying, cyberbullying. I mean, bullying can be expressed in manifold ways, I believe. You have to, you either, got to be your friend and do something about it, at least report it. If it hasn't been reported already, it has to be talked to to the right people. Don't turn a blind eye. Don't act oblivious. Don't be like, oh, it's not my problem. Because if you're really somebody's friend, then you're gonna make it your problem. You're not gonna just say, you don't want to tuck the tail between the proverbial legs and say, oh, it's not my thing. I have nothing to do with this. Well, if you sign on for someone's friend, you do have something to do with it, I believe. Otherwise, you're really You're just not their friend. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.